Greetings, ghosts and ghouls, and welcome to another Lights Out story time with the Houston Public Library. My name is Rachel, and today I'll be telling you about a real haunted place right here in Texas. Although this story is scary, it should be appropriate for children ages 10 and up. This story takes place in San Antonio. One night, many years ago in the 1930s, a nun was driving a bus of children back to their school after a field trip. Because it was so late and it was very dark outside and the drive was long, the children had all fallen asleep in their seats. Nearly home, the nun had to drive the bus across some railroad tracks near Villa Main and Shane Road. Halfway over the railroad tracks, the school bus suddenly stalled right there on the middle. Not wanting to awaken the sleeping children, the nun quietly tried to turn the school bus engine off and on again, but the engine wouldn't come to life. Suddenly, just around a bend in the road, the nun heard the rumble of the approaching train. It had come out of nowhere. There was no warning whistle, nor did the train have any of its lights on to alert the drivers of its presence. The nun tried to press on the gas and move the bus off the tracks once more, but it was too late. The train slammed headfirst into the school bus. The nun was thrown through the windshield and miraculously survived, but all of the children inside perished in the crash. But that's not where this story ends. The nun was racked with guilt and sadness after the car crash. After the last of the little children had been buried, she drove her car back to the train tracks one night, determined to die there where all the children had passed away. She parked her car, turned off the engine, and waited for the train to come take her away. Just when she heard the familiar rumble of a train coming toward her, the nun felt her car move. She double-checked and she had placed it in park just like she thought, but her car was still moved forward off the tracks and to safety. The trunk of her car had just cleared the tracks when the train blared by. Shaken, she pulled her car off the road to safety and stepped outside to see who it was that had saved her. She was sure that someone had seen her parked there and come to push her to safety, but when she looked around, no one was there. She went back to the trunk of her car, and there she saw tiny, child-sized handprints all over the trunk and sides. It was then that she knew the ghosts of the slain children had pushed her car to safety, not wanting her to suffer the same terrible fate that they did. To this day, you can go visit the haunted railroad tracks in San Antonio. If you're very brave, and you park your car on the tracks at night, you'll be able to feel the dozens of tiny hands pushing you to safety. Some people report hearing children laughing and crying when they come visit the tracks. People have even put baby powder on the trunks of their cars to better see the prints, and you can make out the outline of each tiny finger clear as day.
Greetings, goblins and ghouls, and welcome to another Lights Out Storytime with the Houston Public Library. My name is Yadira, and today I'm going to tell you a story about a real haunted place right here in Texas. Although the story is scary, this video should be appropriate for children ages 10 and up. Today, I'm going to tell you about the Hotel Galvez, just an hour down the road of Galveston Island. This hotel is over 100 years old, and during its long history, it has seen many famous guests, such as Frank Sinatra and former President Lyndon B. Johnson. However, the one guest that has left the longest mark on the Hotel Galvez was a young woman named Audra. Audra visited Galveston and stayed in Hotel Galvez while her fiancé, a sailor, was out at sea. During his travels, Audra stayed in room 501. She spent much of her time at the hotel climbing up the winding staircases to a turret on the 8th floor, where she would look across the Gulf of Mexico and dream of the day her husband-to-be will return to her. As we Texans know, violent storms can sweep through the Gulf with little warning. After a particular nasty storm, Audra received news that no one ever wants to hear. Her husband's ship had wrecked, and he was presumed dead with all the other sailors that were abroad at the time of the storm. Audra was devastated. In a fit of despair, she flung herself out of the turret on the 8th floor to her death because she could not imagine living without her husband. Most tragically, days later, her husband arrived safe at shore, miraculously spared by the storm, only to find that his wife had ended her own life when she thought he was dead. To this day, nearly 100 years later, there are reports of an aggravated ghost that haunts the Hotel Galvez. Unable to rest after her untimely death, Audra wanders throughout the hotel. Guests who stay in room 501 have reported hearing strange noises, such as door slammings, a woman's voice, and footsteps in the halls when no one is there. Hotel staff have difficulty programming the key for room 501, as if her spirit doesn't want no other visitor to stay in the room with her. On one particular night, much like the night when Audra thought her husband had died, a guest walking into the hotel looked up at the 8th floor and saw the outline of a woman in a long dress, standing dangerously close to the edge of the turret with the windows open. The howling wind whipped through her hair and dress, and the hotel guest was certain that she would be knocked over and sent to her death. Frightened for her safety, he ran in and alerted the hotel staff. Together, they raced up to the 8th floor, but when they made it up there was no strange woman. No one was there, and the windows were locked tight. Thank you for joining us at Lights Out Storytime. Follow us at Houston Public Library social media and join us to hear more spooky stories. Until next time.